Greetings, Aquas and Terras. This is Mad Hair Patrick, and welcome to the final level of the Disney Video Game Month. For this last installment of the DVG month, the time has finally come to talk about one of the greatest Disney video game series of all time, Kingdom Hearts. It obviously makes sense to talk about Kingdom Hearts because it is the biggest video game franchise that features every recognizable Disney character you can remember. However, seeing how there's tons of reviews of Kingdom Hearts before number 3, and I already expressed how much I am a huge fan of the games, I want to instead rank the world Sora and his friends travel in all of the games. Whether they were original or Disney themed, they were all amazing to look at, even with some of the older ones from the Kingdom Hearts beginnings. So here's how it's going to work. I will be ranking the worlds based on their visuals, enemies, bosses, story, and any other additional mechanics made for the specific worlds, like swimming in Atlantica or flying in Neverland. Speaking of which, since Sora and the game have revisited these worlds several times in the later games, I will combine their adventures of said world into one big world. Next, they have to be open worlds, which means you can revisit or wander around them anytime you like, and they have to come from the main Kingdom Hearts games, Birth by Sleep and Dream Drop Distance. No awakening levels, and Mirage Arena is just a battleground to fight Unversed and nothing else. Finally, no simulated or data worlds, which means worlds from Chain of Memories and Recoded won't be included on this tier list. And keep in mind, I made this ranking list personal. If some of your favorite worlds end up being low or not high enough on this list, please don't get mad. This is just my personal opinion, and I'm okay with whatever worlds you like the most from these games. Now, since there's like almost 40 worlds so far in this franchise, I will have to split this list into two parts, like my top 10s. But don't worry, there will be chapters for each of them. So let's get ready, Keyblade wielders, because we're about to open the door to phenomenal Disney and other realms. It's ranking time for the Kingdom Hearts worlds. Yeah, there's a bunch of reasons why Tarzan's world is low on this tier. This is not to say the movie Tarzan is bad. It's a good movie with good music, great animation, and some likable characters. But Deep Jungle is pretty much forgettable and tedious. It's nothing but a jungle level you can find in any video game. It has little to do with the movie itself other than to stop Clayton from hurting the gorillas. And all you do here is just run around in circles. After you collect the clips for Tarzan, you have to go to the treehouse to see Kerchak, and then you have to go back to Jane to tell on Clayton. You have to fight all the Heartless in all the areas to save the gorillas. Then go back to Jane, you fight Saber one more time, you go back to Jane again and hurry to rescue her, and then you finally fight Clayton and seal the keyhole. Another issue with its world is that it doesn't really add much on exploring Tarzan's identity, his relationship between his gorilla parents, or the truth about his past. And that's because the gorillas don't speak in this game. Kerchak and Kala don't appear or express a lot. So they still got Tarzan to speak fluent English whenever he talks to the gorillas for only 2 cutscenes, yet didn't give any lines to either of them. But that's not really the reason why Deep Jungle is so low on this list. It's just that we never see Tarzan or any of his friends again in the later games. Not even a card world in Chain of Memories. This is because the estate of Edgar Rice Burroughs still owns the right to Tarzan in the books, and Square Enix were unable to secure the rights to use Tarzan in the future. Are there any good things to come out of this jungle? Yes, they are. When you disembark, you immediately had to fight Sabor for the first time, which is a great start to this world. Next, Tarzan is the first additional party member that aids you on your quest. And as much as I say Deep Jungle is just your typical jungle video game level, there are some great landscapes like the treehouse and the waterfalls. The vine surfing minigame is a lot of fun to travel. There's a cool Heartlight that teams up with Clayton to make things interesting. And to be fair, the message of Friends in Our Hearts is decent and fits the Tarzan universe. So overall, Deep Jungle is just average. It has some problems, but it still has some good bits here and there. I just wish we officially have a Jungle Book world to look for the bare necessities.
Oh, did you get that?
No!
So this is considered one of the less fun worlds to play around. Don't get me wrong, it looks amazing and the characters are still memorable like Ariel, Sebastian, Ursula, and more. The problem with the underwater world is the swimming mechanics. It's not as easy to navigate throughout Atlantica even when you face against enemies or dodge them. We do get to fight Ursula twice in the first game, but it does get annoying when you have to use your magic to malfunction her cauldron. But when you ran out of MP, there's nothing left to hit to get your magic back besides her and the eels, so you had to equip yourself with more ether and elixir. The Mega Ursula boss is slightly better, but you had to deal with those electric balls that follow you around. When it comes to Kingdom Hearts 2, people seem to be split about this world's storyline being a musical with no enemies. To me, I actually have a fun time with this one. You don't really explore Atlantica that much, but to its credit, the musical rhythm gameplay is easy to get through. I even like the songs in the game. I still remember all the lyrics. Part of Your World and Under the Sea are still catchy. Ursula's Revenge is a good rendition of Poor Unfortunate Souls, and Swim This Way and A New Dawning are a good opening and finale to the story. I also like if you miss a beat or time it right, it shows how it affects the song and the cutscene. They say Life Under the Sea is better than anything that we got in the service world, but Atlantica in the Kingdom Hearts games is no different up on shores.
Class is over. Good luck.
While Castle Oblivion is one of the coolest locations in Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, its true identity, Land of Departure, is barely an open world. We do get a tutorial level before starting the true game in Birth by Sleep, and a secret boss much later, but there isn't that much to explore in this world. We only check out the training ground for some treasure, and the throne room is only accessed in the beginning of the Three Heroes' games for the exam, and then you never enter it again. Even after Xehanort destroyed part of the world, it still feels like nothing changed after Master Ericus was killed. There are a few good things to like from this place. Again, I like the origins of Castle Oblivion, which explains why the organization have been investigating it. And the boss battles from Master Ericus and Vanitas in Kingdom Hearts 3 are amazing and heart-pounding. The reason why I'm not going to talk about Castle Oblivion all that much as a whole is because the rooms in Chain of Memory share the same mechanics as the card worlds, except for the organization and Riku replica battles. But as it is, the Land of Departure ended up becoming an oblivious world within itself.
Why does it seem so familiar?
Yes, I know that Destiny Island is one of the worlds you don't revisit after Sora and his friends set up the raft to other worlds, but unlike the Awakening worlds, you do have time to explore the islands and level up before you go on your adventure. It's almost like the Animal Crossing games where you have to collect some material, duel with your friends, and uncover small secrets and prizes. But you know why it's low on this list. There are no other games where you can explore Destiny Islands again. There are some cutscenes of Sora and his friends back on the islands, but you never actually travel to any new areas. In fact, the only new area I discovered from this world is the small town where Kairi and Selphie were at in Kingdom Hearts 2. And that's just a cutscene. It signifies that it really has been over a year since Sora sent Kairi back home. It's unlikely we will ever look around the Destiny Islands again in the 4th game in the Phase 2 saga, but the Destiny Islands is a small world that is destined to get you ready to see the realms of Disney.
I just can't wait. Once we set sail, it'll be great.
The Hunchback of Notre Dame is one of the most underrated Disney films. It's a timeless classic for its unbelievable animation, groundbreaking music, and dark themes. However, since it was the most serious Disney movie, they had to cut down some of the adult and religious subject to make it appropriate for the games, which unfortunately became the weakest of the new worlds in Dream Drop Distance. The characters are still in character, like Quasimodo, Esmeralda, and more. We do get a nice conversation between him and Riku about Quasi listening to his heart to leave the cathedral, but they don't get a lot of screen time and don't contain a lot of plot elements from the movie. In fact, Quasi's not even a party member of your team. But possibly the biggest missed opportunity on why it's the weakest Triple D world is the boss battle. It's not Judge Frollo. I know he's not powerful as Maleficent, Jafar, or Ursula, and his only weapon was a sword, but I'm pretty sure they could still utilize him to be a boss. He could have been like Clayton where he had a Heartless or a Dream Eater to aid him to become stronger and still be in the battle. Let's be honest, when you think of the Hunchback of Notre Dame, do you really think about battling a giant colored fruit bat? Yeah, that's way too topsy-turvy. However, there is one thing that still stands out in this world, the background. It still captures the essence of the movie, from the grand scale of Notre Dame to the dangerous atmosphere whenever something is on fire. It's not the worst world I played through, but there's still a couple of fires that needs to be put out.
Sanctuary!
The Dark World is an interesting place that fully screams you are in the realm of darkness. Before it became an open world, it was already established in the early games. It can spawn Heartless with no machines or other entities. Parts of familiar places has to come to the darkness, like the beach area, and how spending in the Dark World can break you if you give in. When Aqua spent 10 years in this gloomy place, she encountered parts of the Disney world that are also lost in the realm of darkness, but with unique twists. There's Cinderella's world, where time is irrelevant, the Dwarf Woodland contains a hall of mirrors with optical illusions, and the Enchanted Dominion contains some of Maleficent's iconic prickly thorns, and has become a habitat to the bigger Heartless known as the Dark Sides. The deeper the darkness, the more powerful the Heartless are, down to the point where small Heartless like the Shadow can form a tornado. With each remnant of the world she uncovers, it reflects how she feels and how much she misses her friends, and she is determined to find a way out no matter how long it takes. In Kingdom Hearts 3, we enter the world but only to take down the Heartless and face Aqua, who has been corrupted, but all that fighting only takes place in the beach area from Kingdom Hearts 2. While the Realm of Darkness is meant to cast only shadows, the Dark World presents some light on how magnificent and threatening it truly is.
That's enough. I can't keep on wishing for the past.
The final world is almost like Dark World, but the exact opposite. It's best described as the world beyond world with no place else in front of it. No buildings or roads, only blue skies and clouds. There are people here, but they no longer have bodies and may have lost their memories a long time ago. A good example is Naminé. She is Kairi's nobody, but after she reunited with her original form, she returned back to Kairi's heart, leaving her nobody vessel behind. However, it is also a state of limbo where Sora has lost his friends to the Swarm of Heartless and Terra Xehanort, but his heart was strong enough and he refused to say no to death. The only inhabitant that still has a body is Chirithy, who got separated from his friend who is secretly Vint because of the events from Kingdom Hearts Chi. Despite not having unique locations or other recognizable characters, it is still a jaw-dropping world with incredible themes and tales about life and death. It may not be a world to end all worlds, but the final world is still an amazing place.
I can't stop you, can I?
Lilo and Stitch is a heartwarming and charming animated Disney movie, but when you have a world that's all about Stitch and not have Lilo or Hawaii in it, there isn't that much to talk about. Deep Space is basically trying to adapt Stitch's Great Escape in Magic Kingdom into an open world, involving Stitch doing some mischief and confronting some aliens and their technology. But to its credit, it is a good foreshadowing on Stitch learning to be good when he learns about friendship from the original 3 Keyblade Masters. With the space station, you can actually take down the Unversed in outer space and activate zero gravity to flow around Pacific areas. For the bosses, the Unversed in Vince's story isn't that memorable, but the Lilo and Stitch bosses are. Aqua not only has to face Big Bad Ganto to win Stitch's freedom, but Terra actually had a chance to battle against Stitch's cousin, Experiment 221, Sparky, from the straight-to-DVD movie. What a shocking surprise! Deep Space is not an Out of This World Lilo and Stitch level, but it is a good prequel world that is part of the Kingdom Hearts Ohana.
I like the charm you made.
The 100 Acre Woods is practically the only world where it doesn't have any sorts of enemies, not even those Heffalumps and Woozles from A Trippy Dream or any other villains from the Saturday morning cartoon. However, despite not being taken over by darkness, it still captures the charm of the Winnie the Pooh characters. In the first games, the minigames were just meh, but the locations were amazing. But in the sequel, the minigames are a lot better, with one that contains jumping out of the book, and the story is much stronger where Pooh forgets Sora and all of his friends after the Heartless stole the book and broke it. For the third game, it was okay. I just wish we could have explored more of the 100 Acre Woods besides Rabbit's house to play his version of Candy Crush. But it was nice to see Lumpy again after so many years. I have no idea if this world is making a comeback in Kingdom Hearts 4, but if it does, I wonder what would happen if Sora met Christopher Robin for the first time. The 100 Acre Woods is not the most complex world in the Kingdom Hearts game, but you will have a good time with Pooh, Piglet, Tigger, and the rest in this enchanted neighborhood.
Sink, 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 sink.
The Land of Dragons seems to succeed in capturing Mulan's journey as China's hero respectfully. It opens with her disguised as Ping, and she is still learning how to train among Shang's army throughout the missions. The backgrounds do look and capture the grand scale of the mountains and the temple. With the bosses, Shan Yu is a fitting villain to battle, but he's too easy to fight. Even if your goal is to keep him from getting inside the temple, his Heartless army and bird are not as threatening. With the Heartless boss in the second visit, that's where things get tricky. It's gigantic, it's up in the air, and you have to get on top of it to hit its weak spot to take it down. I even like the extra side plot of Sora encountering a man in a black hood where he thought it was Riku. Of course, it's an organization member named Xigbar, but they did hint out that Riku may have come here to warn the Emperor and they'll be rescued by Sora, Donald, Goofy, and Mulan. It gives Sora's hope that his friend is still okay and he's getting closer to finding him. The Land of the Dragons may not make a man out of you, but it's still a Kingdom Hearts world worth fighting for.
You two play nice.
Whoa, watch it, soldier.
Enchanted Dominion is one of the Disney Princesses world from the Princesses of Heart that has potential to be an open world, with all the sword fights, avoiding obstacles like boulders and thorns, and slaying a giant dragon. In Birth by Sleep, it did deliver what it promises. The settings do capture the look of the 1959 film with the medieval and Art Deco design from Aurora's castle to the forest to Maleficent's lair. Each of the bosses in Sleeping Beauty's world do have some amazing combat. The spinning wheel Unverse is an imagined introduction to an official Unverse boss compared to Darkseid from the first game. Maleficent in her original form is fun to tackle with some help from the good fairies, and her dragon form, while not as epic in the movie or hard in the first game, still put up a good fight and give Prince Philip a chance to attack her some more. I even like in this world you had to take down some of Maleficent's goons in her lair. My only problem with this world is that it feels awkward when there's no other people in Sleeping Beauty's kingdom. I know the fairies put everyone to sleep after Aurora pricks her finger on the spinning wheel as prophesied, but there was not one single person inside the throne room taking a nap. And the music score for this world is too melancholy to make anything feel enchanted. Second, I don't get why Terra couldn't just go after Maleficent to undo what he did. When he first arrived at Enchanted Dominion, Maleficent tricked him into finding Xehanort by encountering Aurora, just so she can possess Terra to seal the Sleeping Beauty's heart for her. I know he left so he can figure out how to control the darkness inside of him, and he has a mission to find Master Xehanort, but if he wants to redeem himself, he could've just head over to Maleficent's castle that's literally across the forest to get Aurora's heart back and slay the Dark Fairy so Ven and Aqua don't have to. The good fairies can still help him, and it won't take long to get back to his original mission. But what we got so far, Enchanted Dominion is a good origin behind Maleficent's world domination schemes, and there's some stuff happening that will keep you wide awake. This original world is an interesting concept. It started as the Badlands, where the original Keyblade wielders encountered Xehanort and Vanitas. Once things turned into despair for the heroes, they decided to have one more confrontation with the villains and unveil the world's true identity. A place where other Keyblade wielders lost their hearts and has become a battlefield for the Keyblade War. It is cool to face X and V in the final showdown for each story arc, but the only issue I have with the Birth by Sleep version is the area with the Twisters. They constantly follow you and force you to battle the Unverse until they're all defeated. I don't get why the game could have just spawned them on the spot like the other worlds. In Kingdom Hearts 3, they made the graveyard immersive and turned into a massive battle against the real organization. While some organization battles are easy to defeat, there are some interesting conversations between the heroes and the villains, like Vanitas explaining his purpose of being in darkness, Terra trying to get his body back from Xehanort, and Lee reconciling with his friend Isa. The only times that felt difficult to face were the other versions of Xehanort, his young self, and some Xemnas. But we can all agree on one thing, that Lingering Will is the toughest boss to face in the Keyblade Graveyard. In the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 3, we were introduced to Xehanort and Erika's original home, and for the most part, it does look amazing from the buildings to the architecture. It was like the world was taken over by the It's a Small World clock tower.
Man, that would be awesome to battle that thing again.
When Sora, Donald, and Goofy started walking towards the place, it became a great showdown to finally defeat Xehanort. First, you had to face the dark spirits of the real organization, fight Xehanort topsy-turvy, underwater in the air, and then on top of the big tower. But because the place looks so beautiful, it makes you want to take a break from fighting and have a look around some more. Thankfully, in the Remind DLC, we do get a chance to explore the world more, and it's like a huge maze filled with puzzles. There are going to be hints that Scarlet Egg Column is coming back in Kingdom Hearts 4 on Mickey's mission from Yen Sid, but for now, I'm happy how this world turned out. Like every Simpson character, I have not seen the movie Tron. Much like how the first Kingdom Hearts game introduced me to Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts 2 introduced me to Tron's world, Space Paranoid, or The Grid. Though I understand why nobody talked about the movie that much, it is complicated to comprehend what kind of computer world it is. Now, to the world's credit in this game, it has an interesting backstory that its world is actually a copy from the original server, Encom. It was formed by Anthem the Wise for research purposes and have Tron as the security program for Hollow Bastion. Now, the Grid and Dream Drop Distance seem to be the original data space than it is the Hollow Bastion computer, since it does feature the real creator, Kevin Flynn, inside the game. However, I would prefer Anthem's copy as the best open world than the Sleeping World because at least I can understand what the place is, there are some unique areas and colors, a fun light cycle minigame, and some creative battles with the DTD program, Commander Sark, and the MCP. The Grid does have some nice visuals, but it still has too many complications, and while we fight Rinzler, aka Tron, it feels like a missed opportunity to battle Clue. The Dream Eater boss is not as bad as the one from Hunchback, but at the same time, I kinda like that Clue joined forces with it and unleash how powerful he is to de-rest someone, like he was that determined to eliminate someone he considered flawed and fulfill his purpose in the Grid. Still a imaginative world, just need to update his mains a bit.
With that configuration, you must be users.
Users?
While I consider Aladdin being my favorite Disney movie for its beautiful animation and incredible music, I find The Adventures in Agrabah pretty good. It was a great new stage to unlock in the first game after sealing the keyhole in Traverse Town. The architecture does capture the look of the movie, the cavern inside the Cave of Wonders are huge, and it is well done on foreshadowing the Princesses of Hearts. In the sequel, it was decent, since it was trying to retell the Return of Jafar movie with Iago becoming a good bird and trying to stop Jafar from taking over Agrabah. But for a vizier that turned into an all-powerful genie, he really didn't put up much of a fight. Just hit his lamp or his chest and that will break his spells. When you fight him as himself using his magic scepter, he is one of the best Disney villain bosses in the game. While the sequel has a nice magic carpet ride and some unique puzzle challenges, I thought the first game had the best story and graphics. In this one, you actually fight the Cave of Wonders, and after sealing the keyhole, Sora and his friends ride the magic carpet to escape the cave, just like in the Aladdin movie. Agrabah, it's more often than not, it's hotter than hot in a lot of good ways.
Hey, I'll even throw in a cappuccino.
No thanks.
Okay.
When Square Enix tried to bring live-action Disney movies in the game, the result ended up becoming passable. While the look of Jack Sparrow, Barbossa, Elizabeth, and Will seemed a bit uncanny, Kingdom Hearts 2 did manage to capture the atmosphere of the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie. And no, there's no dog that's guarding the prison. If you didn't watch the first movie, the game does explain the plot easily that in the Tron's world, stop a pirate's curse and take down the leader Barbossa with the help of a mischievous pirate. In Kingdom Hearts 3, I think it did better on reenacting the World's End movie than the actual World Ends movie. Not only is it shorter depending on how much you complete the story, the visuals are stunning, and the designs of the pirate characters are much better, but you do understand what these characters are fighting for, the sea and freedom. Yeah, I was a fan of sailing to different islands to find treasure, and I think the world would have been fine to have Davy Jones as the only villain to worry about instead of Beckett. But I can still say I'm glad they turned the pirate sequels into a swashbuckling open world game. So I'll admit Kingdom Hearts 3 World on the Caribbean was a bit better than Kingdom Hearts 2. So drink up, me hearties, because Port Royal, aka the Caribbean, truly is a pirate's life for me.
Yep, still works.
Ever since the announcement of Kingdom Hearts 3, it was confirmed that Rapunzel's world would be one of the worlds Sora, Donald, and Goofy were going to explore, and the way they present the Kingdom of Corona is fascinating. The game did a 100% wonderful job on recreating the look of Tango from the design to even some of the spring seasons. When you see Rapunzel talking to Flynn, or when they go on the boat and lift their lanterns up in the air, they capture scenes from the movie flawlessly. I do like in Sora's journey that you had to help Rapunzel have a fun time in the outside world, since this is the first time in her life she has left the tower. Plus, there was an interesting hint from Marluxia about the new Princess of Heart, foreshadowing the possibility of new princesses coming later in Kingdom Hearts 4 or after. The only downside with having this world is that Rapunzel doesn't become your party member anymore after you finally send her to the festival. It's understandable that she used her hair to beat out enemies, but I'm sure she would still be fine without her magic hair as long as she has her frying pan. With a beautiful meadow and majestic castle, the Kingdom of Corona is definitely a dream.
Best day ever!
There was a bit of competition on which CGI Disney movie is the best movie or open world, Frozen or Tangled. I like Tangled, but I thought Kingdom Hearts 3's version of Frozen won me over. Yeah, it would have been amazing if we actually explore Arendelle itself instead of the snowy mountains and you had to go up to see Elsa 3 times on this journey, but there were some cool things that helped lower the annoying repetitiveness. I love the ice labyrinth Larxene crafted. It was almost like a Frozen version of Castle Oblivion. And as a reward for escaping the place, it is nice to hear Let It Go in a video game. Next, not only do Sora fight Marshmallow, a giant snow monster bodyguard, but he actually becomes a member of the team as well. If you ask me, those Heartless should fear him than the Keyblade. Another reason I thought Frozen's world is a bit better than Tingle's world is the Heartless boss. The music is powerful, the reaction commands are unbelievable, and the boss doesn't look cartoonish as the Tingle Heartless boss in the end, showing how serious this thing truly is. Both of these Disney movies and their Kingdom Hearts worlds are memorable, but I don't mind seeing Anna, Elsa, and Olaf once in a while in Arendelle. The cold never bothered me anyway. The country of the Musketeers does feel like a tie-in to the Kingdom Hearts timeline, such as how Mickey and Minnie became king and queen, or Donald and Goofy becoming heroes and protectors of Disney Castle. Plus, there is a nice continuity when they say all for one and one for all, which explains why Sora, Donald, and Goofy use that phrase a lot as a team. The scenes look gorgeous like Mount St. Michael and the Opera Theater, and using comet strips to attack enemies is ingenious. I mean, think about it, it's based on a direct-to-DVD movie, yet it ended up becoming one of the best worlds in Dream Drop Distance. The only flaw I would have with this world is that Riku's storyline in Triple D was too short. All he had to do was stop a contraction by defeating the Beagle Boys. It looked like the country of the Musketeers was a sleeping world made for Sora in his Market Mastery exam, and it's very likely he and the other Musketeers would still take down Pete even if the machine was still operational. A good tie-in to the Kingdom Hearts series, well to say but, it's all for one and one for all.
All for one and one for all!
Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed this, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe me for a new review and other project every week. I'll see you soon.